my name's Emily and I'm part of the team here at Excel Communications. Welcome to our very first episode of our Keeping Connected series. So we're going to be speaking to some of our friends in the media to shine a light on how the industry's changed over the past few months, talk about their careers, and also, most importantly, we're going to have a bit of fun. So today I have the pleasure of being joined by James Day. James has a hugely successful journalism career spanning more than 20 years. He's now the editor of Stuff magazine, and previously he was the tech editor of the Metro. And before that, he was also the associate producer for the Gadget Show. So James is going to be telling us more about his career highlights so far, and it's better coming from the man himself. So without further ado, let me introduce you to James Day.
So I thought it'd be quite nice if we started by you kind of telling everyone how you first got into journalism, where it all began.
Yeah, more luck than judgment, I can tell you that much. I never planned to be a journalist. I did a few apprenticeships when I left school, and I come from Reading. People in Reading go into IT, that's what they do. So I thought I was going to work in computers. And of the 3 interviews that I went for an apprenticeship, one of them was for a press agency. They offered me the worst working hours, the worst wages, the worst terms, the worst everything, but it sounded by far and away the most exciting place to work. And should hasten to that, the other one was a insurance company and a car dealership. So yeah, not much to pick from, but and it was quite a tight-knit press agency, and within about sort of 4 or 5 months, you were taking copy over the phone from reporters in the field. You were looking after the picture desk because all the photographers were out, but you were the only person competent on a Mac because you'd grown up with computers. And before long, the boss of the agency felt that I had a bit of aptitude for it and sent me out on a few jobs as a reporter. And one thing led to another, sent me on a course to become a journalist, and never really looked back. So it certainly wasn't the plan. Didn't go to college, didn't go to university, wasn't particularly great at English at school. So I don't know what happened. But anyway, somebody believed in me. So I'm very, very grateful to Neil Hyde for believing in me.
Yeah, I bet your English teachers would love to hear how far you've come now. And how has it been kind of the past few months in journalism? Has it been a drastic change? I mean, obviously you've still been working. How's it been for the industry?
Yeah, it's been very difficult. There has to have been a number of shifts of focus, and you've had to adapt very quickly to the situation. There's been several layers for my situation personally, because I'm a freelancer, but I'm a contractor. I'm a limited company director. So even though I write my own stories and I get commissioned for my own stories, I also employ people effectively.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of tightening of belts. There's been things like, lower pagination in magazines, magazines not being published, budgets being cut, advertisers not advertising. And yeah, it's been very challenging. But I have to say that even though some really difficult measures have been taken, I do feel like we're coming out of the other side of it now.
Yeah.
And we're quite a resolute nation, I think, and the back half of this year is going to be quite exciting, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, tough decisions made, but I think probably for long term sort of profit, really.
Yeah, and there's light at the end of the tunnel, almost.
Mm.
And I mean, what would you say if you had to say, what would be the best and worst part of your job?
Wow, best part and worst part of my job. Okay, worst part. Let's start with the worst part. Writing stories is probably a very, very small percentage of being a journalist. I like to write, but actually probably takes up 20% of my job as a total. The rest of it is, sort of commissioning, dealing with emails, setting up meetings, making sure product samples are in, planning the magazine, etc., etc. So I wish I could write more. That would probably be the worst part. The best part, you do get some nice perks. Do get some nice press trips, although they've fallen by the wayside lately. But I mean, look, on the whole, journalists don't get paid a huge amount of money, but sometimes we get opportunities that money can't buy, and things to tell your grandkids that no one else would ever have the chance to experience. And I've been very lucky in that respect.
Yeah. And I guess kind of leading on from that, I was going to say, what has been the highlight of your career so far? Like one of those experiences that you just, like you say, you tell your grandkids.
Yes. Okay. That's an interesting one. I guess there's probably sort of a personal high that's been work related, and maybe something that has been, a serious work related high as well. So, from a work point of view, to have an amazing opportunity to interview Jeff Bezos face to face in London, but must have been about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. Yeah. I'd really warmed to the guy, thought he was, really engaging, and nothing was off the table. Still not quite sure how he managed to land that interview. I was working at the Metro at the time as the tech editor. But lo and behold, look what this guy's gone on to do. He was on the ascendancy at the time, I hasten to add. But yeah. I guess, I don't know, I didn't really appreciate the gravitas to the situation at the time. I was just having this really cool chat with this guy. And now suddenly he's like the richest man in the world and everything's gone crazy. That's crazy. So yeah, that's pretty mad. Personal high, wow. I mean, apart from interviewing some amazing people like, I don't know, Sir Paul McCartney, RZA from Wu-Tang Clan, wow. Shaquille O'Neal was a bit of a hero of mine. But actually, the most amazing opportunity I had was through Sony, who took some journalists out to the World Cup in Brazil. I'm a huge football fan, never been to a World Cup in my life, never thought it would come true. Not only did I go to a World Cup, I went to a World Cup in Brazil. So, that was pretty monumental, to be staying on Copacabana Beach and in the same hotel as lots of different footballers and celebrities from the the sort of sporting world. So yeah, that was incredible. It was surreal.
And I think I know what the answer is going to be to this question. However, if you weren't a journalist, what career do you wish you had?
Oh, right. Okay.
Profession.
I'm curious as to what you're thinking of now. I mean, I'd love to be a footballer, really.
Okay.
I was half decent when I was younger, but didn't really have the discipline for it. But you think of the lifestyles that these guys lead, that they lead now. I'd love to be a footballer. But I think you're probably thinking DJ, right?
Yeah, I was going to say DJ, but obviously you do that already. So.
Well, yeah, dabble, but I don't know. Scratch DJs, I'd love to be a scratch DJ or a hip hop DJ. Yeah, that'd be insane.
This part, it's just a bit of fun, kind of quick fire questions, and there's only 5 of them. So. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when I say it. So if you found out you won the lottery straight after this call, what would be the first thing that you did? Or what would you spend your money on?
This is very interesting. I know this is supposed to be a quick answer, but I had a dream this week that I won £23 million on the lottery, wow. which was crazy. And all I remember happening in the dream is that I was rushing around trying to work out who I was supposed to give money to, and it caused more of a headache than it was joyous. But I think actually if it happened, first thing I would do is just jump on a plane and get away somewhere like the middle of nowhere, and then open up an Excel spreadsheet so I could work out where all this money's going and who I'm going to be giving it to.
You can only listen to one song for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Unfinished Sympathy by Massive Attack. It's the greatest song ever created. Who's
your biggest inspiration? This can be work or personal or...
Oh, that's interesting. Well, okay, Jenson Button is my sporting hero. Maybe he'd be a good candidate. I don't know. Do you know what? I'm not the biggest F1 fan anymore, and I'm more of a football fan than anything else. But I always felt this guy carried himself with such poise and grace, and anything he ever did, whenever he spoke to people, was always enthusiastic. And I think he probably came from quite a nice background and brought up in quite, in a well-to-do way. But it never came across as this spoiled little rich kid. Just always very humble, and so huge Jenson Button fan.
Which 4 people, past or present, would you invite to your dinner party, and why?
Okay, 4 people. Can they all be past, or they?
Yeah, they don't have to be alive.
Okay, Marvin Gaye, I think, huge hero of mine. Possibly maybe Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys, huge musical influence as well. There's a guy called Robin Friday who is like Reading Football Club's most cult footballer. I won't go too much into it, but there's a book on this guy written by Oasis's former guitarist about how much of a rock and roll footballer this guy was. But he sadly died in his late 30s from a drug overdose. So he's a bit of like a mysterious, mystical character to Reading fans. I don't know what he's really like. So yeah, I'd love to meet Robin Friday. And then, oh man, how many is that? Is that 3?
That was 3, yeah. So you got one more.
3.
Last seat at the table.
Good Lord. I mean, Winston Churchill, maybe. I don't know whether I'm on the side of liking the guy or reviewing the guy or hating the guy or what, but you know what? I think he'd be an interesting guy to have around the table nonetheless. He's seen some things, right? So, yeah.
Definitely. Sounds like it could be a very interesting party. If you were stranded on a desert island and you could take 3 things with you, what would you take and why?
Sega Mega Drive.
Obviously.
Probably my iPad would be useless, but and a pair of sunglasses, because that would just be annoying to have the sun in your eyes all day. Yeah.
Practical, very practical. So I get such different responses to that. Some people are like, I'd take a spear so I can go and get some food, but no.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hadn't even thought about that. I guess I was just thinking of a coconut-based diet for the rest of my life.